प्रणाम, नमस्ते. Respected Gajpati Maharaj Divya Singh Dev, the esteemed King of Puri, respected Maharani Ji, distinguished dignitaries and beloved members of Odia community and other Indian communities present here. आप सभी को सादर नमस्कार. भारतीय कौंसलावास में आपका स्वागत है. उड़िया समाज ने महाराज जी के आने के शुभ अवसर पर और हमारे गणतंत्र दिवस मनाने के उपलक्ष्य में इस कार्यक्रम का आयोजन किया और हम लोग बहुत प्रसन्न हैं कि इस तरह से सब लोग इकट्ठे हुए हैं और इसको समावेशी एक संस्कृति के रूप में लेते हैं. I, on behalf of the Indian community of Lagos, welcome Gajpati Maharaj and Maharani Ji formally. You have been welcomed by the community, but it is my responsibility to formally welcome you. I am honored on this occasion to address this august gathering, which is dedicated to the vibrant culture of Odisha and timeless heritage. Its timeless heritage. Odisha is the land of Jagannath, Lord Jagannath, our tradition, heritage, and family values. Odisha is often referred to as the soul of India. It is a place where spirituality meets creativity and innovation. You may be knowing that Odisha is becoming the hub of IT in Eastern India. It is growing very fast in that space. It is a state that has given us the traditional divinity of Lord Jagannath, the famous Rath Yatra, the poetry of Jayadev, Geet Govind, and the mesmerizing grace of Odissi dance, some of which we could see. It's a wonderful land. From the stunning architecture of Sun Temple of Konark and the Jagannath Temple in Puri, to the intricate artistry of Pattachitra. There were some on the display over there. Filigree jewelry and hand-woven ikat textiles. Odisha stands as a beacon of India's artistic and spiritual legacy. We have seen the performance today. Now I am looking forward, as like all others present here, to listen Gajpati Maharaj Ji and to, I would say, mesmerize in the knowledge about discourse on Jagannath. The Gajpati dynasty is not just a symbol of Odisha's spiritual heritage, but also a beacon of leadership, compassion, and continuity of tradition. Your presence here reaffirms the timeless connection between the crown and the culture of Odisha. The Odia diaspora of Lagos is very well organized and continues to uphold and share their tradition. An applause for Odia community here. Just by establishing Lord Jagannath Temple in Lagos, Nigeria, which has become a very focal point for the whole Indian community. They have shown that how do they love the tradition and cultural heritage of their land back home. मैं उड़िया समाज के स्थापना पूजा में भाग लिया हूँ और मैं बहुत आश्चर्यचकित हूँ कि इतने लंबे समय तक इतने लोग इस पूजा में पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं. महाराज, मैं आपसे बताना चाहूँगा कि ये लोग 8:30 बजे सुबह में बुलाए थे और रात के 9:30 बजे तक पूजा में थे. हम लोग छोटा मोटा बीच में ब्रेक देते हैं, लेकिन लगातार पूजा चलता रहता है. तो बहुत ही अच्छे ढंग से एक स्पिरिचुअल और रिलीजियस ढंग से उस पूजा को मनाया जाता है और आई एम वेरी प्रिविलेज्ड टू पार्टिसिपेट इन दैट. आई माइट नॉट हैव डन दैट had I not been in Lagos. With this, I would now request everybody to keep silence during the discourse of Maharaj, and let us take home whatever we can immerse the knowledge about Lord Jagannath. Thank you. Jai Shri Jagannath.
नीलाचलनिवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्रसुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। मन्नाथ श्री जगन्नाथ मद्गुरु श्री जगद्गुरु मदात्मा सर्वभूतात्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। His Excellency the Consulate General Chandramoleshwar ji and his wife Mrs. Chandramoleshwar, members of the Indian community in Lagos. To be frank, I feel very uncomfortable sitting on this chair. As you know, there is no kingship now. We are in an independent, democratic country. We are all citizens of India. I do not know why the word king is still used. However, just like everyone does a job, having been born in a particular place, in a particular situation, so this body has been born in the family which is serving Lord Jagannath. At one time, of course, there were the ancestors in this family, the predecessors in this family were sovereign kings, as you heard. At the same time, they were servants of Lord Jagannath. As a matter of fact, this is not something unique to Utkal Pradesh or Odisha. This is an integral part of Sanatana Vaidika Dharma, which is the culture of Odisha, of India. Travel south or north or east or west, we will find that since Vedic times, of course in the Puranas we have got plenty of data, but even in modern times, pre-independence era, we find that in the kingdoms, in the major kingdoms, the king would be the servant of the Lord, the presiding deity. So also in the tradition of Lord Jagannath. We are here today celebrating Odisha Cultural Evening. I would like to express my gratitude to His Excellency the Consulate General for this wonderful arrangement which has made it possible for all of us to share a few moments, hopefully connecting with Lord Jagannath. Now, cultural evening, the word culture has got many connotations, many definitions, but in the context that we are trying to understand it, we can try to explain it by a set of values which cultivates our character, our personality, makes us what we are. Whether it's the individual or the society at large or the nation. Just like the soil, the fertility of the plant, so also here the backdrop, the background, the quality of our culture determines who we are, what we want in life, what is our objective. So looking at it from this context, broadly speaking, in the world today, we can divide our cultural context in two broad fields. One is the material culture and the other is the spiritual culture. Okay? The material culture understands that this world is real. There is nothing beyond the world that we experience. Therefore, whatever we want in our life to satisfy us, to make us attain our goals and objectives, is to be found in this world and this world alone. And that this world is real, and I am real, and I am nothing more than a complex of body, mind and intellect. Full stop. Nothing beyond that. And this world is there for my enjoyment, for my gratification of my senses. Full stop. There's nothing more to it. I'm here. When I die, I'm gone. There's nothing more. On the other hand, the spiritual culture looks at it from a totally different viewpoint. The spiritual culture understands, believes, has faith that this world is not the only reality. It is relatively real, but behind this world of samsara, the universe, whether we take this planet Earth or the entire universe, there is an absolute reality. And that reality permeates everything and permeates each one of us. That is how we are alive. That is why things move, things exist. And that spiritual essence, which is the fundamental core of the existence, we refer to as God, we refer to as the absolute truth, we refer to it as pure consciousness. It is that which makes everything possible, and that is the treasure house of all happiness, of all fulfillment. So, the happiness that we are seeking is really not to be found in this world experience, but is to be found in that which is behind this world experience, which is the absolute reality. That is the spiritual viewpoint. This body is an instrument of the Lord. This world, entire world, is an manifestation of that Lord. And unless and until we connect with that reality, we, as human beings, do not attain the goal of our human life. This is the spiritual viewpoint. And this, my friend, is the real India, the real Bharata. Bharata is the land of spirituality. The culture of Bharata is spiritual. Unlike the other parts of the world, which is totally materialistic, with materialistic ambitions, with materialistic pursuits, with only materialistic activities and nothing beyond that. But India believes at something deeper, something more subtler, something more durable, and that is spirituality. So, if we go back to the Vedic times, the ancient India, it is all spirituality. And mind you, spirituality is not a contradiction to materialism, no. The material existence, the material progress, the material prosperity is an integral part, an inbuilt part of spirituality. Leading ultimately to moksha. So kama and artha, our desires are fulfilled, and all the prosperity that we want is attained through the path of dharma. Does not feel that is the right thing to do. So let us go back to the ancient times, to the Vedic times, to the pre-Vedic times, to the Puranic times, and understand what is the spirituality of Bharata. At one time, and it is said now also, that Bharata at one time was the guru, the spiritual guru of humanity, of the whole world. And we are, and we can manifest ourselves as such to spread the spiritual vibration, the spiritual knowledge, the spiritual culture around the world, which alone can achieve real peace, harmony, and universal brotherhood. Sanatana Vedic Dharma, which is the spirituality of India, has the necessary inputs whereby peace and harmony and universal brotherhood can be established in reality in a lasting, permanent manner between people and people, community and community, nations and nations, religions and religions. In other words, the concept of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Okay? So let us, without wasting more time, because we have very little time, is so prominently displayed in our ancient heritage. We have to go back to Puranic times. Actually, the glory of Lord Jagannatha, interestingly, is mentioned even in the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda, as you all know, is the first religious literature of humanity. And in that, there is a stanza indicating the presence of Lord Jagannath in Purushottama Kshetra. Similarly, in Atharva Veda also we find a stanza to that same effect. However, the elaborate exposition of the glory of Lord Jagannath is found in the Skanda Purana. We also find references fairly elaborate, more than 1,000 stanzas in Brahma Purana and in the other Puranas. However, it is the Skanda Purana with about 3,000 odd shlokas, 60 chapters, which elaborately explains to us how Lord Jagannath manifested. You see, if we see the Lord's, I'm sorry, the screen is a little far away from me, so you'll have to look that side and also to be able to listen to what I have to say. So if we see Lord Jagannath, as you all know, and some of you may have been to Puri also, his appearance is something which we cannot understand, right? Sri Rama, even Lord Ganesha, Lord Shiva, Lord Devi Durga, Lord Krishna, we can relate, we can understand, but what is this appearance of the Lord? Why did the Lord appear like this? So the explanation in our scriptures is absolutely authentic and to the point, as we will go in and see. So Lord Jagannath manifested in Puri, but how did he manifest? When did he manifest like this? This narration is given to us by Maharshi Jaimini. As I said, this is found in the Skanda Purana, and the Skanda Purana is the most voluminous of all our Puranas. It is even larger than Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana, and it contains the glory, the spiritual religious significance of all our the ancient heritage of all the places of pilgrimage in India, from the north to the south, whether it is dealing with Lord Vishnu or Lord Shiva or Lord Ganesha, Devi Durga. So all these places of pilgrimage are very authentically explained in the Skanda Purana. Now regarding Lord Jagannatha, we find the narration in the second chapter of Skanda Purana, which is known as Vaishnava Khanda. Vaishnava Khanda because the Supreme Lord is proclaimed as Lord Vishnu. Now if you go to the Maheshwara Khanda, the Supreme Lord is proclaimed as Lord Shiva. As a matter of fact, there is no difference. In a sense, They are all one and the same. As we will see as we go along. So, how does this Skanda Purana start the narration? There is this, in ancient times, the Gurukula, the great saints would live in the forest hermitage, right? And often their classes would be under a tree. So Maharishi Jaimini is with his disciples who are rishis, and the rishis asked this question to Maharishi Jaimini, that you told us about Lord Jagannatha, and you mentioned that the Supreme Lord manifested in this fourfold wooden form in ancient times. How did the Supreme Lord take this wooden form? We can't understand. How and where and when? Please explain. So Maharishi Jaimini explains that in ancient times he had gone for darshan of Lord Shiva, and he found Lord Skanda, that is Kartikeya, the younger son of Lord Shiva, delivering discourse to the rishis who have gathered there in Mandara Hill, and he spoke about Lord Jagannatha, as he had heard it from his father, Lord Shiva. And so then explains how Lord Jagannatha manifested in this very unique form, fourfold wooden form. So he says that at one point of time, Lord Brahma, you know, Lord Brahma is the creator of the universe, right? He got tired. And then after the dissolution is over, I have to create again. I am quite tired of it, doing this over and over again. Can there not be an end to it? Now Lord Brahma is all-knowing. He has all the wisdom. He knows that this creation is because of a cause. The creation is an effect, and there has to be a cause to that effect. And that cause is all our collective desires. Desires of all beings in the entire universe. They desire, so the desire manifests in a physical form. That is this universe, created universe. So, can there not be a way by which gradually the beings attain complete liberation? Means a state of desirelessness. So when everyone is liberated, then the cause disappears. When the cause disappears, there is no effect. There can be no effect. So I don't have to create anymore. Then I will relax. So with this, he starts praying. He knows that only one personality can show him the solution, how there can be complete liberation for everyone, so that there is no need for any creation. And he knows that that personality is only the Supreme Lord, his own creator, Brahma's own creator, Brahma's own father. That is Lord Vishnu. As I said, the Supreme Lord is in the Vaishnava Khanda expounded, proclaimed as Lord Vishnu. Here it is not actually Vishnu in the sense of Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, but the total combined divinity of Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara, the Supreme Mahavishnu, okay, the Supreme Lord. So when Lord Brahma prays, obviously the Lord has to appear, so he appears in Garudaji. And of course Lord Vishnu knows why you are praying. He says, Lord Brahma, this is not possible, because this is all laid out by me. This is my, wish or my desire and my regulation, my rule, and this has to happen. But then, out of compassion, Lord Vishnu says that, look, I cannot refuse you, because you and me are not different. So I will tell you a secret which you also do not know. You have created the entire universe, but even you do not know about this. So here it is. There is a place called Purushottama on this planet Earth. And then Lord describes Purushottama Kshetra Puri. I am there just as I am here. Just as you see me here, I am there also, in the same way. Nitya, eternally. Go there and then things will be revealed to you. So Lord Brahma immediately goes there for him. He's there within a fraction. And there Lord Brahma actually sees the Lord. What he sees? It's a huge, this Purushottam Kshetra, that is modern Puri, and this is in Puranic times, during some time, during the 50th year of this Lord Brahma, we are now in the 51st year of Lord Brahma, which is known as Svetavaraha Kalpa, and this is just preceding that in the 50th year, towards the end of the 50th year, and Lord Brahma is there's a huge mountain called Nilagiri, looking blue mountain because it's huge. And at the top of this mountain there is this Kalpa Vriksha, massive tree, divine tree. You can see here Lord Vishnu, Sankha Chakra Gadadhari Lord Vishnu, and to his left is Devi Mahalakshmi, and behind them and giving them shade is Shesha Ananta. Okay, and in front, kneeling down, is Lord Garudji, and standing in front of him is Sudarshana, Sudarshan Chakra, assuming a human form, again holding Sankha Chakra and with his forearms. So Lord Brahma has darshan and he has no doubt that this is the Supreme Lord. And as he is worshipping and praying to the Supreme Lord, what happens? One crow comes somehow flying from somewhere, and the crow is tired and thirsty, exhausted, and so the crow takes a dip in the Rohini Sarovar, drinks water, bathes about a bit, has a bath, and then looks up. When the crow looks up, he has darshan of Lord Vishnu. And as soon as he has darshan of Lord Vishnu, his body of the crow disappears, and he also becomes like Lord Vishnu, a small Lord Vishnu, and goes to the side of Lord Vishnu. Brahma is surprised. What is this I am seeing? What in creation is considered a lowly, menial creature who does not have any spiritual knowledge, any spiritual sadhana, even he is liberated. Form of Lord Vishnu means liberation. So now, I have got the answer now. Anyone has darshan of Lord Vishnu here in Purushottam Dham, here, gets liberation instantly. So I will spread the word around. If all the beings will come here, have darshan of Lord Vishnu, get mukti, get liberated, go beyond the state of desire, and then everyone is liberated, and I'll have no work to do, I will relax. Okay? But as Lord Brahma is rejoicing, who comes? Yamaraj comes, Lord Yama comes. You can see Lord Yama. He comes completely troubled. Oh Lord, what have you done? What will happen to my department? My department will close down. If there is no death, then no one is there coming to me. I have no job to do. Now Lord Vishnu has a problem. He has created Lord Brahma. He has created Lord Yama, giving them their responsibilities and duties, and now there is a conflict. So, as it happens in our household also, when the husband cannot answer the question, resolve the issue, he passes on the buck to the better half. Right? So Lord Vishnu gives a side glance to Mahalakshmi, and Mahalakshmi understands immediately what she has to do. So she takes over and tells Lord Brahma, look Lord Brahma, Lord Yamaraj, what you are wanting is not possible. Why? Because this Purushottam Kshetra, just like in Vaikuntha, this is our eternal place, Nitya Dhama, Nitya abode. We cannot leave this place. We are always here. And then Mahalakshmi, to explain to Lord Yama, says that even during the Mahapralaya, that is the night time of Brahma, you see there is the daytime of Brahma followed by the night time of Brahma. The night time of Brahma is equal to the daytime of Brahma. And how long is the daytime of Brahma? Anyone knows? Okay. Now we know the yugas, right? How many yugas are there? 4. We know. It's called Chatur Yuga. Now when this now how much is the Kali Yuga? How many human years? Anyone? How many human years? 43,000? No, 4,32,000 human years. 4,32,000 human years. You make it double, that becomes Dwapar Yuga. You make it 3 times, it becomes Treta. You make it 4 times, it became Satya Yuga. And when you put them all together, it is 43,20,000 human years is one Chatur Yuga, same thing. When this Chatur Yuga has gone over 71 times, 71 cycles, that is the time period of one Manvantar, one Manu. Okay? When 14 Manus have gone by, that is one day of Brahma. Okay? We are in the middle period, we are in the 28th Chatur Yuga, in the Kali Yuga. So we are in the time period of the 7th Manu, which is like the noon time of Lord Brahma of this day, 51st, the 51st year, the first day. So let's not bother too much about it. So Mahalakshmi is saying that even during the night time of Brahma, when there is no creation, there is no solid ground, everything is dissolved. So we have these Chiranjeevis, who are blessed. Devi Mahalakshmi says, Markandeya Rishi, not finding any support, not finding any ground, very tired, swimming in the waters of dissolution, comes to us. He finds us as the only existing thing. So I am here and Lord Vishnu is here and this Kalpavriksha is here and he comes and takes our shelter. So this is just to explain that even during the Mahapralaya, during the night time of Brahma, when there is no creation, there is no physical world, even then we are here. So how are you expecting us to leave this place? Not possible. However, again, Devi Mahalakshmi, understanding the sentiment of Lord Vishnu, out of compassion says that, okay, let's do one thing, let's have a deal. Okay, we should learn these things, have a deal. So, okay, now we can't refuse you, Yamaraj, because again, you are like our family. So, we will disappear from Purushottama Kshetra in this form. We do not go away from here. We give up this form and much later there will be a king, actually an emperor, whose name will be Indradyumna in the Satya Yuga subsequently. Through his prayers and devotion, we will re-manifest again in Chaturdha Daru Vigrahas. Okay, so then there will be no instant mukti, but there will be krama mukti. We will shower our grace, we will be here, but in another form. So my friend, this is the reason why the Lord disappears in that form and appears in this form. Now in that form, it was Madhava. The Shastra says, Nigla Mani Vigraha, blue, looking like blue sapphire gemstone. Okay, a fully living divinity. And then it says that the Lord, the Supreme Lord, mind you, the Supreme Lord was in that form during the first 50 years of this Brahma's life. And then the Shastra, Skanda Purana particularly also tells that in this next 50 years Brahma's life, which is the second Parartha, the Supreme Lord will remain in this Chaturdha Daru Vigraha form. It can be seen, it can disappear, it can be seen, but the Lord, Supreme Lord in Purushottama Kshetra will be in this form. Okay, so they are satisfied. Lord Brahma is satisfied, he can't argue. Lord Yamaraj is also satisfied. All right, there will be no darshanat mukti, so that's fine for me. There will be still death happening, so I'll have my office functioning, so that's fine. So they go back to their abodes. This concludes the first part, which is the genesis of the manifestation of Lord Jagannath in Purushottama Kshetra, and then we straight away come to the beginning of this first day, 51st day of Lord Brahma, and we go to the second Chatur Yuga, the Satya Yuga of the second Chatur Yuga, when the entire known world was under the sovereignty of a great emperor whose name was Indradyumna. Now, he was not the emperor of Odisha only, and his capital was not in Utkal Pradesh, his capital was Avanti Nagari, which is modern Ujjain, and the essential kingdom was Malwa Desha, okay, which is basically Madhya Pradesh. So he was the known emperor of the known world at that point of time, and so I have already mentioned all this timing and all that. We are now going back to the first Manvantar, the time period of the first Manu, whose name was Swayambhuva Manu, and we are in the time period of the seventh Manu. So many Manvantars have gone by. Let us not bother too much about it. This is the time calculation, so we'll skip it. All this is Puranic. Now you can see Avanti Nagari, paramount sovereign emperor of the known world, including Utkal Pradesh, of course. So one fine day, Maharaja Indradyumna, he was a great devotee of Lord Vishnu and a Parama Bhakta, Parama Vaishnava, and an ideal king. And he has gone to his temple, Lord Vishnu, Vishnu and Mahalakshmi, and having worshipped them as usual every day, he comes out. Brahmins, Vedic Brahmins were gathered, and he has a question for them. He said that, look, I have achieved everything that I need to achieve. I have conquered everything. I have gathered all this. Where the Lord himself resides, not an image of the Lord, not a pratishtita vigraha of the Lord, but the Lord himself, the Supreme Lord himself. Everyone is silent, they don't know. So suddenly, in that audience, as you can, I have traveled all over and I have been to that place where the Lord resides. And he explains the Purushottama Kshetra Puri. I have been there and I have heard about the Lord. The Supreme Lord actually resides there. Having given the explanation and the direction, suddenly this person disappears. Everyone is to locate this place, and I would like to go there and dedicate all my life there. So the Raj Purohit says, no problem, king, we will do exactly that. So I will send everyone, including my younger brother, whose name is Vidyapati, to go exactly in the direction explained by this old person who looks like a divine being. So they all go in different direction, and Vidyapati comes exactly to the place Purushottam Kshetra Puri, and mind you, this is the Satya Yuga of the first Manvantar. Now he reaches there and he sees the huge elderly person walking down from that Nilagiri, from that huge mountain, and that person comes and sees, oh, you are a Brahmin and you look very tired. Please come to my house and please we'll share some food. You look very tired and exhausted. You have traveled long. So then they go to the Savara's house. He says that I am the Savara chief. My name is Viswavasu, and you seem to be a Brahmin. So then Vidyapati introduces himself. I am the younger brother of the royal priest, and I have Maharaja Indradyumna has sent me on this errand. And he says, no, I will not touch food till I have had darshan of the Supreme Lord, because I have been told that the Supreme Lord resides here. Now, the tribal chief is in a problem. He says that I can't refuse him. He's a Brahmin, and then he's a royal emissary. So all right, they go up exactly to the top of the mountain, and then they have darshan of the Lord as you see them here. Just like Lord Brahma and Lord Yama had darshan, Viswavasu and Vidyapati have darshan of the Lord, and Vidyapati says his prayers, and then The tribal chief says, Viswavasu says that look, it's getting dark and there are a lot of dangerous animals, we have to go down quickly. So then they come down. And then of course the Vidyapati is elated, very happy, his mission has been achieved. He says, I have to now immediately go back to give this good news to the king. They sleep the night there. Next morning they go to the Mahodadhi, the sea, have a bath there. Then again they go up to the lords, have darshan there, and the Savara chief Viswavasu gives the sacred garland, prasadam of Lord Madhava to Vidyapati, and then the Vidyapati heads back to Avanti Nagari. Just as Vidyapati is leaving Purushottam Kshetra, there is a huge sandstorm which takes place, a massive sandstorm, and the entire hill is covered by sand, and the Lord is not seen anymore. The Lord Vishnu, Devi Mahalakshmi, Garudaji and Sudarshana disappear under the sand or whatever. Rohini Kunda also disappears. Only the Kalpavriksha remains. But this of course is not known to anyone else. And in the meantime, the priest reaches Avanti Nagari. He is escorted to the audience of the king. The king is in court and the king is waiting anxiously. And the king asks him, and then Vidyapati narrates the entire episode. The king is extremely thrilled, and Vidyapati places the divine garland on the king, on the emperor, and the emperor has divine experience, ecstasy. And then he says, okay, now the information has come, let us all go as quickly as possible. I think he says that even tomorrow, let us all move. Those in the kingdom, all the people in the different levels of the society, and all the queens, we all move. And we spend our entire life in Purushottam Kshetra, reside there, serving the Lord. So as the king emperor is making this sankalpa, who comes there? Devarishi Narada. Devarishi Narada has been sent by Lord Brahma. Why? Because Lord Brahma knows that this emperor is going with all determination and sankalpa, but the Lord is not there anymore. So what will happen to this guy? So Devarishi Narada has to look after him and to see that everything goes on fine according to plan. So Devarishi Narada is there. Of course, the emperor receives him, does all the puja and all that. They spend the night together, having discourse. Now this discourse between Devarishi Narada and Emperor Indradumna is in the 10th Dashama Adhyaya of the Purushottam Kshetra Mahatmya, which is the portion dealing with Lord Jagannath, which is a very enlightened spiritual discourse of the 4 types of bhakti. So please read it, that is real jnana. When they are in the court, they are holding the evening, after the evening puja, they are all sitting in the court. Who comes? The king of Utkal Pradesh. Now his name is not given in the scripture, but is known as the king of Utkala. He comes there, greets Emperor Maharaja Indradumna, because Indradumna is the supreme sovereign emperor, and all the kings owe their suzerainty to Emperor Indradumna. So then the king of Utkala escorts Emperor Indradumna to Purushottam Kshetra. When they reach Purushottam Kshetra, Devarishi Narada now says that, well, the time has come, the unfortunate truth has now to be revealed to the king, to the emperor. So he says that, oh emperor, you have reached Purushottam Kshetra, but the Lord is not there anymore. He has disappeared. When Maharaja Indradumna gets this news, he immediately collapses. He loses his senses. Now, Devarishi Narada, through his divine powers, sustains his life and gradually makes Indradumna regain his consciousness. And when Maharaja regains his consciousness, he says that, look, I don't want to live anymore. I will fast here unto death. Because the whole purpose of my life was to have darshana of the Supreme Lord and to serve Him. Now if that is not possible, what is good of human life? I might as well fast unto death. Then Devrishi Narada says, no. That's not the plan, that's not the drama, that's not the script. He says, look, Lord Brahma has sent me exactly for this. He has told me that you have to perform 1000 Ashwamedha Yajnas here in Purushottama Kshetra. And the end of that, the Supreme Lord will manifest. He will give you darshan. So, make arrangements for this Ashwamedha Yajna, but before that, let us go up the mountain and have darshan of the sacred place where Lord Madhava, Nilamadhava was. So the Devrishi Narada escorts Maharaja Indradumna and others, and they have darshan of the sacred place where Lord Madhava, Nilamadhava was, and obviously only the place is there and Kalpavriksha is there and the lords are not there. 1000 Ashwamedha Yajnas. Now, who of you have been to Puri? Please raise your hands. Okay. Now, have you seen the temple, Gundicha temple? Good. Near about that, they had the Ashwamedha Yajna. Okay? And reform. So 1000 Ashwamedha Yajna takes place, and now mind you, this is Satyuga. So even the gods are invited, all the kings are invited, all the rishis, maharishis are invited. Devrishi Narada himself is giving the directions, and the king and queen, they sit in the yajna. Now the name of the queen is not given out in the scriptures, so we do not know. And as the yajna, 1000 Ashwamedha yajna is finishing, the Maharaja Indradumna in his seat of meditation in Brahma Muhurta, Kuntha, in his eternal abode. And next morning he discloses this to Devrishi Narada, and Devrishi Narada says, yes, this is an indication that the manifestation is going to happen soon. So all the yajnas have finished and they have to go to the seashore for the ritualistic bath. And the bathing ghat is being prepared by the servants of the king. And as the servants of the king are preparing the ghat, they see something which is totally out of the world. What do they see? A huge object looking like a tree, glowing reddish, with a lot of glow, huge, gigantic tree with its root floating up on the waters and the branches deep inside the ocean. So they come running to the king and tell the king and Devrishi Narada, "O king, this is what we have seen, we don't understand. This is never seen before." So immediately, of course, Devrishi Narada knows everything. So they go, and when they reach there, they get the tree out from the waters, and Devrishi Narada says that, look, make a big platform, sacred platform, mandapa, and place the tree there, and then the Lord's directions will come. So when they have placed the sacred tree on the mandapam, as you can see there is the divine voice which tells the king, "O king, that by and by an old person will come praying to be allowed to make the image of the Lord out of this tree." So as per the divine Akashvani, an old person comes looking like a carpenter, holding tools, and says, "O king, please allow me to carve out the image of the Lord from this tree." And the king says, "Yes, we have been given this divine command." But then the old man says that for 15 days no one is to enter. The entire place is to be covered up, and outside please play a lot of music, not the modern music, but the traditional music of those days of Satyuga, Bharatiya music, so that the sound inside is not heard. What is happening inside is not heard. So the king says, "No problem." So they cover up the whole place, the whole mandapa is covered up, and they leave this old person inside, and 15 days is over, and nothing is heard. So the divine voice had said 15 days. So the king goes, and Devrishi Narada also goes. They open the covering, and what do they see? They see the Lord in this form. Of course, Devrishi Narada and the king see, and then the divine voice says, "Quickly cover me up with the bark of the tree, which is still there." And then everyone can have my darshan. No one should have my darshan in this form, but cover me up with the bark of the tree, and certain other directions are given. The king did is what we see now. Okay? So immediately the question comes to our mind, how did this Lord appear? All our lords have hands and feet looking like something like us, but this does not look like us. This does not look like anything on this planet Earth. This does not look like anything in this whole galaxy or in this whole universe. So how is it so? So the Upanishads give us some indication. So if we go to some of the Upanishads, I'm just giving just one or two. One of these Upanishads is Shvetara Upanishad, which has this stanza, Sanskrit shloka, Panipado Yavano Grahita, which translated into English is, He, the Supreme Being, is without hands, feet, and yet moves and grasps. He sees, though without eyes. He hears, though without ears. He knows whatever is to be known, and of him there is no knower. They speak of him as the first, the Purusha, and the great. Similarly, in Kaivalya Upanishad also there is a similar stanza, Panipado Achinta Shaktihi, which in English would read like this: I am without hands and legs, of incomprehensive power. I see without eyes, hear without ears, devoid of all forms. I am knowing everything, and there is none that knows me. I am ever pure knowledge. Now, Upanishads are the Jnana Kanda, is the knowledge essence, the spiritual wisdom of all the Vedas. So, in our Sanatana Vedic Dharma, we understand and have faith in the Upanishadic pronouncements as the highest supreme divine truth, because these are given out by the Jivan Mukta Mahapurushas who have direct access. These are pronouncements made through direct realization of the supreme reality, of the Supreme Lord, not through the intellect or the mind, but going beyond the intellect of and the mind through complete divine experience. All the Upanishads, so they are the highest truth. So this gives us an indication of how the Lord is in Purushottam Dham. So let's come back to the story. 500 feet. Now mind you, this is Satya Yuga, so all that is possible. So the king says, all the kings of the known world then, please come and join me. Everyone join me in making this magnificent temple, because this is the temple not of an image of the Lord, but this is the temple of the Supreme Lord Himself, as we will see as we go along. So they all join in and the temple construction happens, and it's a massive construction which is going on. So when the temple is almost ready, then Devrishi Narada says that, look, now the time has come for installation of the Lord. Now who will install the Lord? This is the Supreme Lord. This is not a Vigraha of the Lord, this is the Supreme Lord. So who will install? None other than Lord Brahma himself. So I have to go up to Brahmaloka to invite him to come here to install Chaturtha Daru Vigrahas in your temple. Then Emperor Indradumna falls at the feet of Devrishi Narada and says, "Oh Lord, I would like to also personally go and invite, because it is I am the Karta, I am responsible for the job. You are giving the command and direction, but I am the doer, so I have to also personally invite him." So Devrishi Narada, out of his compassion, says that, look, you have performed Ashwamedha Yajna 1000 times and you have purified yourself so much. You have almost got a divine body, so I will take you up with me. So through Devrishi Narada's compassion and divine powers, Maharaja Indradumna goes to Brahmaloka. So when they reach Brahmaloka, Lord Brahma is having his court happening and darbar happening, and when the darbar, whatever dance, drama, song, Vedic chantings, all that is happening, when that is concluding, he sees Devrishi Narada and Indradumna waiting. He calls them, and of course he knows what they have come for. But Maharaja Indradumna, shivering and frightened, manages to extend his invitation. And of course, Lord Brahma knows what it is all about. He says, okay, you go down and make all arrangements, and I will come down to install the Chaturtha Daru Vigrahas in the temple. But mind you, while you have come to Brahmaloka, one Manvantar has gone, because the time period in Brahmaloka is different from the time period in Martaloka, you know. So while you have come up and when you go down, one Manvantar has gone, so all your kingdom and everything, your family and everything is gone. But you go down and I will come to install the Lord Jagannath. So when Indradumna comes down, it is the time period of the second Manu, whose name is Swarajisha Manu. Okay? So he's worrying, oh, so much time is gone. If my temple is there, whether someone else has conquered the kingdom. When he comes down, he's surprised to find the temple looking beautiful in Purushottam Kshetra, the temple which he constructed. And he finds the Lord still there near Gundicha temple, where we have Gundicha temple. There's no temple then there, there's only a mandapam. And he is very delighted. But then what happens? The king of Utkala, the name is given there, King Gala. In the second Manvantar, the name of the king of Utkala is given as King Gala. He hears about someone coming. Now in the meantime, what has happened, that this king of Utkala, he's placed a Lord Madhava, his own Lord Madhava, in this temple of Indradumna. And he hears that this king, someone has come who's going to take out my Lord. Or rather, he has taken out my Lord Madhava and is placing some other Lord there. He comes very angry to fight, right? But when he comes there and reaches Purushottam Kshetra, he hears the glory of Indradumna and comes to know about everything, and that he's gone to Brahmaloka. And he hears from everyone else. Immediately he knows that it is not good to fight him, rather it is good to serve him. And he comes to know this is a divine plan for the Chaturtha Daru Vigrahas, for none other than the Supreme Lord, to be installed in the temple. So the king of Utkala starts serving Maharaja Indradumna, and everything is going nicely. And they make 3 big chariots under the direction of Devrishi Narada. The 3 huge chariots are constructed near the Mandapam, where the Lord is manifested. The Lords are taken up to the chariots, and the chariots are brought to the temple. Now my friend, this is the first Rath Yatra of Lord Jagannatha, and this happens in the second Manvantar, Satyuga of the second Manvantar, under the aegis or under the rulership of Maharaja Indradumna. So when the Lord's chariots have reached near the temple, who comes? Lord Brahma descends in his Pushpaka Vimana, and he goes up, you can see, he goes up onto each chariot and prays to each of the Lords. Now this prayer is very powerful and very beautiful, very philosophical, given out in this Skanda Purana, in that portion. And after down into the temple, and Lord Brahma installs the Chaturtha Daru Vigrahas in the temple. Lord Brahma himself does it. And after the Lords are installed, Lord Brahma touches the Lord and chants some mantra. So when he does that, what happens? The Chaturtha, 4 Lords, you can see Lord Balabhadra on the left, Devi Subhadra in the middle, Lord Jagannath on the right, and to the left of Lord Jagannath is Chakra Sudarshan, assuming a form like a post. So that is how he is manifested. They become the form of Lord Nrsimha. All 4 of them become one form, and vibrating, dynamic, and fearful looking Lord Nrsimha, fire emanating, and the whole place starts shaking through the divine force of Lord Nrsimha. And obviously Indradumna and everyone else is shaking in fright. And of course Lord Brahma and Devrishi Narada know everything. Then Maharaja Indradumna starts praying to Lord Brahma, "Oh Lord Brahma, this is too frightening. We cannot bear this. Please make the Lord resume their earlier peaceful form." So again Lord Brahma chants mantra and the Lord assumes the previous Chaturtha Vigraha forms. So obviously Indradumna is puzzled. How is it that the Chaturtha Daru Vigraha become this huge, majestic and very frightening looking Lord Nrsimha, which is scaring all of us? How did this happen? He then requests Lord Brahma to explain, to give the answer. And now Lord Brahma gives the answer. So please read this. Of course, this is in Sanskrit, it has been translated. This gives us the real identity of Lord Jagannath. And this is given out by whom? By none other than Lord Brahma. It is not the scriptures as such, it is not a Maharishi, but it is Lord Brahma himself who is giving us the identity of Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma is telling Indradumna, look, thinking, let there not be the idea in you that this is a mere image. This is verily the form of the Supreme Brahman, Parama Brahma Akriti. As Parama Brahma takes away all sorrows, Khandanat Sarva Dukkhanam, and confers eternal bliss, Akhanda Ananda Danataha, he is known as Daru. Now Daru we know is the liquid form Daru, okay, that also gives Ananda. Then we know Daru as wood. But here the Daru has this meaning, something that removes all your sorrows for all times and confirms eternal bliss, eternal satisfaction, eternal happiness. That is also known as Daru. Therefore the Lord manifested in this wooden form. Then Lord Brahma says, according to the four Vedas, therefore, the Lord is manifest in the form of Daru, that is sacred wood. He is the creator of the entire universe. He has also created himself. I would like to repeat it. He has also created himself. Now why did Lord Brahma say that? In some other portion of the scripture, Lord Brahma has explained this. Also Devrishi Narada explains this, that the divine object looking like a tree which manifested in the Mahodadhi, the sea in Purushottam Kshetra, was none other than a particle of Lord Vishnu himself. Okay? And this old person who came and made the form was none other than Lord Vishnu himself. So what do we have here? Lord Vishnu making himself out of himself. This is the real secret and the real spiritual religious glory of Lord Jagannath. It is different from all other lords that we worship. So Lord Brahma is continuing here. He says, this Lord pervades all forms. Sarvam Rupamaya Hesha. You see, we human beings have all got our preferences, likes and dislikes. I would like to see my Lord, Supreme Lord, in the form of Lord Krishna. Someone says, I would like to see my Supreme Lord as Lord Rama. Someone else says, I would like to see my Supreme Lord as Lord Shiva. Someone says, no. I would like to see my Supreme as Goddess Durga or Goddess Kali, you know. But someone else says that, no. I would like to see my Lord as beyond all forms, Nirakar, Nirguna. So here, this Lord is Sarvam Rupamaya Hesha. He is all forms. Take any form worshipped by humanity anywhere in the world, in any culture, in any religion, it is a form of this Lord only. Okay. Mantras. Sarva Mantramayaha Prabhuhu. All the mantras we chant to any gods or goddesses in any religion of the world, ultimately it goes to him. Because the Supreme Lord is only one. God is only one. He manifests, we believe, we in Sanatana Vedic Dharma believe that he can manifest in any form. There's nothing impossible for the Lord because he is omnipotent. He is omnipotent, omnipresent and omniscient. So nothing is impossible to the Supreme Lord. He can manifest and he does manifest in different for the welfare of the entire universe and also the humanity. So then Lord Brahma continues, in whatever way he is worshipped by anyone, in any religion, in any country, in any nationality, accordingly does he confer fruits on him, O king, just like well-purified gold, when shaped according to one's choice, gets this or that name in this world and brings about this or that satisfaction, O king. With such glory, the Lord has become manifest here. We don't have much time to go into this, but I think you have got the message now and you have understood it. I would suggest that you read these scriptures. Skanda Purana is just like a gateway, but then to really understand and connect with the Lord Jagannath, we have to study the Bhagavad Gita, we have to study the Bhagavatam, we have to study the Ramayana or the Ramacharita-manasa, we have to study the Upanishads, because as we said, he is the Lord of everything and everyone. So all scriptures are his scriptures. I would say you can even bring in all other religion scriptures of all religions. The essence, the true essence is only one, because God is one. So then Lord Brahma tells, I think it's Devrishi Narada who indicates to Maharaja Indradyumna, look, the Lord is extremely pleased because through your devotion, your prayers, your yajna, you have made it possible for the Lord who had disappeared to re-manifest again. He is very pleased with you. So please ask him anything and the Lord will surely grant it. So Maharaja Indradyumna takes the courage and asks the Lord for only one thing. What does he ask? Oh Lord, how may I serve you? Now if we were there in front of the Lord at that time, what would he have asked? Give me a Cadillac car, give me a beautiful wife. So many endless things we ask. Or once in a week, do we ask, oh Lord, how may I serve you? How may I please you? Let us be honest to ourselves. That is the unfortunate thing. So Indradyumna tells us what is the meaning of spirituality, what is the true essence of religion. We have to all serve the Lord. Each in our capacity, the Consul General and all of you, myself and all of you. In truth, we are all servants of the Lord. That is our real identity. And here we are born as human beings to serve the Lord, because then only we can obtain the grace of the Lord, through which we can attain ultimate mukti. Ultimate mukti may be a long way off, but as we start getting the grace of the Lord, our life, our world becomes rosier and rosier. The pinpricks, the troubles, the anxieties, the sorrows, the depressions start reducing. They're around us, but they don't touch us that much. And as we progress in the path of spirituality, going closer and closer to God, all these troubles, all these sorrows and miseries start losing their power over me. They're there in the world, but they start losing power over me. So let's not go and get into that at the moment, because we don't have time. So naturally, then the Lord starts speaking. Even though he has a wooden body, the Lord, because he is the Supreme Lord, nothing is impossible. He tells Indradyumna what you must do to please me, how you can serve him. So the Lord gives him a complete prescription, daily routine. What are the services you must do? Doing your completing your mission, you come up to me. So he has to go back to Brahmaloka. So he hands over the responsibility to the king of Utkala and ascends to Brahmaloka, and then this tradition continues. So as I said, he is the Lord of all. So if we go to Puri and we see how this has actually happened in reality, we will see that and according to their philosophy, Lord Balabhadra is Samyak Jnana, that is perfect knowledge. Devi Subhadra is Samyak Charitra, that is perfect. Was very prominently established in Uttar Pradesh in the pre-Christian era. And we had a great emperor there called Kharavela in the 2nd century and 1st century BC. And those who have been to Bhubaneswar would have seen these caves, Khandagiri caves. Jagannath Dori also being a Buddhist. And then of course in the Buddhist philosophy, Lord Jagannatha is Buddha, Lord Balabhadra is Dharma, and Devi Subhadra is Sangha. And of course we all know of Emperor Ashoka. He conquered most of India, almost the whole of India, but his imperial glory came to an end in Utkal Pradesh, Odisha, in the Kalinga War in sometime in 261 BC. And from Chandak Ashoka he became Dharma Ashoka in the land of Lord Jagannatha, and of course he was responsible for the spread of Buddhism throughout especially Southeast Asia. Now this is interesting. I do not know if you've heard of this. A lot of research has gone in, and beginning with about 1894, beginning in the 19th century, there was this Russian traveler called Nicholas Nitovich, who traveled the Himalayas, and traveling the Himalayas, he came across this monastery in Leh, which is called Hemis Monastery. And when he reached there, the lamas there said, "Oh, you've come, you know, your God has been here." So Nicholas is surprised. So, what do you mean? Why do you say that? So then they got the Pali scripts there and they read it out to him, which completely told the story of the 13 years that Jesus Christ, young Jesus, was absent from the Middle East. Okay? But he, being a Russian, still published it. It is known as The Unknown Life of Jesus Christ. This book is available on Amazon, you can get it. And then, sometime later, Swami Abhedananda, who was the Guru Bhai of Swami Vivekananda, in charge of the missions activities in New York, he was the vice president of the Ramakrishna Mission at that point of time. He came across this book, Unknown Life of Jesus Christ, and was astounded. Can this be true? He says he didn't believe it. So when he came back to India, he himself went to Hemis Monastery, and the same lamas showed him the same scripts. And he had his disciple who would take down all the notes, and it's in Bengali, written in Kashmir or Tibet, and exactly the same thing, you know. And then, very interestingly, an American father, a pastor in a church in USA, probably in Chicago, he had these Akashic records, astral vision, and he writes it down in this book called Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ. This is in 1907. This is very interesting because for the first time we get this narration that a prince of Odisha, written as Odysseus, was in Jerusalem during the feast of the Passover, and he sees a young boy talking words of wisdom to the rabbis. He's very impressed, and he goes to the house of the young Jesus and meets his father Joseph and invites the young Jesus to come to the east. This is very interesting. And then they try, the father writes, his name is Dowling, Levi Dowling, that for 3 years young Christ remained in Jagannath Puri learning the Vedas. Then he went to Nalanda, then to Rajgir, and then back to the Middle East. This is very interesting. And subsequently, modern scholars from Europe and America have traced all this and found that to be true. Now these are the books. You can go out, which is Jagannath Puri, you know. Very interesting. So this shows that even before Christ, the glory of Lord Jagannath was well established, and Puri was a center of Vedic learning. So then we had Bhagavad Adi Shankaracharya. As you know, he's the founder, he's not the founder, he's one of the greatest proponents of Advaita Vedanta. Now, the modern scholars place his advent sometime in the 8th century by the Shankaracharya Mathas of Sringeri, Govardhana Pitha, Puri and Kanchi Kamakoti, said that no, it's not the 8th century, it is about 2500 years ago from now, so shortly after Buddha. So this is of course a matter of research, but Adi Shankaracharya, when he came to Puri, he was traveling all over India, and Puri, of course, he knew the Skanda Purana and the glory of Lord Jagannath. So Adi Shankaracharya knew all the Shastras and all the Puranas. So when he comes to Puri, he finds the temple in a dilapidated condition, but Lord Jagannath not there. Chaturdha Daru Vigraha is not there. He tells the king, "Oh king, where is the Lord?" The king says that I do not know. So Adi Shankaracharya says, "Well, please make an inquiry and find him." So the king makes an inquiry and comes to know that the Lord was hidden in central Odisha in a place called Suvarnapur or Sonpur, because of dense forest, hills and inaccessible. Why? Because 144 years before that time, there was an invasion which the king of Utkala could not stop, and to save the lords, they took the Lord to central Odisha and hid them. The Sevakas went there with the lords and they put the lords in a cave and worshipped for some time. Years passed, no news from the king. They did not know whether it is safe to go back to Puri. So what they did, they cannot be there for all times in that dense forest. They dug a hole, put the lords there, buried, put a vriksha there to identify, and then they go to the village. So now when the king's emissaries come, they locate these people who are in the village, and these people take them to the tree and they dig and they find the lords. They bring the lords to Puri, and under the direct directions of Bhagavad Pad Adi Shankaracharya, the worship of Lord Jagannath is resumed, Mahaprasad is resumed, all the festivals are resumed, and Bhagavad Pad Adi Shankaracharya establishes the Govardhan Pitha as the Guru Pitha for Lord Jagannath's temple, Sri Mandira. And so also, let's skip all this because we're running out of time. This was the time, Adi Shankara's time is before the construction of the present temple, okay? So probably the king at that time, his name was Yayati Keshari, who built the temple during the time of Adi Shankaracharya. And then we come to the 12th century, to the construction of the present temple. Now the Ganga kings moved up into Odisha from Andhra, and they occupied Odisha because the previous dynasty Somavanshi dynasty had become weak, and then they found this temple of Lord Jagannath not so impressive, not so big at that point of time, so they built the present temple, which is 125 feet high, a magnificent temple, one of the largest temples of India, and they established the Lord there, of course. And this was the time when Sri Ramanujacharya visited Puri for darshan of Lord Jagannatha, and he advised the king on the worship of Lord Jagannatha. So a lot of the Vaishnava traditions also come in. Now let me tell you, the Lord Jagannatha is the sum total of all our religious beliefs, faiths and philosophies. So in the Puri temple, you will find a combination, an integration of various forms of worship. Of course, I would say predominantly it is Vaishnava form. So Sri Ramanujacharya established his mathas there, and then we also have Nimbarkacharya coming shortly after that, establishes his math there, his disciples come and worship. Now they all worship Lord Jagannath in their own tradition. You see, as I said, Lord Jagannath becomes this or that depending upon who worships. Okay, so then we had Jaydev, our Honorable Consul General, mentioned about our great Bhakta Kavi Jaydev, who composed Gita Govinda, which is very dear to Lord Jagannath. This is sung every evening at the bedtime of Lord Jagannath in the Jagannath temple. And of course we had another Jagannath temple constructed in Cuttack. We'll skip all this. And then the kings of Odisha, following the tradition of Lord Jagannath, they dedicated themselves and the entire empire at the feet of Lord Jagannath. As I said, this is a tradition of Sanatana Vedic Dharma which is prevalent in all the kingdoms of India in ancient times. So here we have this graphic inscription, I think, where King Ananga Bhimadev is saying that I have dedicated everything, the entire kingdom, and I am remaining as the humble servant of Lord Jagannatha. So this is the philosophy and the sentiment. Vishnu Swami from South India also visited Puri. He was a great Vaishnava saint, and he establishes a mutt there. Of course, then there's a construction of the Sun Temple. We skip all that. And then Madhvacharya's disciples also came there, and one of his great disciples, whose name was Narahari Tirtha, became a minister in the court of Gajapati King Bhanudeva in the 13th century. And then Sant Kabir also came here in the 14th century or the beginning of 15th century, and there is a mutt of Kabir which is there. And we have at that time the King Kapilandra Deva extended the empire from, as you heard, from Ganga to the Godavari. Means most of the eastern seaboard was under the kingdom of the Gajapati kings, spreading the glory of the Lord Jagannath far and wide. And his successor Prataprudra Dev, no, Purushottama Deva, actually had a raid all the way down to Chennai, to Kanchi, So this is a very big story. I will not go into it, but it's a legend. It's a historical incident where the king of Utkala, goes and fights the king of Kanchi and brings his daughter to Purushottam Puri. There is a big story to it. Ultimately, of course, he went. And then, of course, in the 16th century, or maybe the end of the 15th century, Sri Chaitanya, along with his disciples, they come once, twice to Puri, and the last several years of Sri Chaitanya he spends in Jagannath Puri itself, in Gambhira, which is inside Radhakanda Matha, singing the glory of the Lord, doing Sankirtana, and spreading Sankirtana. Sankirtana. And one of his very good sakhas, these are all the sakhas of Sri Chaitanya, but one of his very dear sakha is Thakur Haridas, Namachari Haridas. This is not the correct photo of Haridas, I'm sorry, but Namachari Haridas was not born of a Hindu family, but he is considered as the Guru. And of course, the Prataprudra Dev became a disciple of Sri Chaitanya, and then we have the visit of Guru Nanak in 1505 AD. And Guru Nanak ji composed this very famous bhajan, Gagan Thal or something, which is sung in every Gurdwara around the world today. And that bhajan was composed by Sri Guru Nanak ji in Jagannath Puri after he had darshan of Lord Jagannath. And there is a mutt, there's a miracle performed by Guru Nanak ji there, where he put his stick and water came out from underground. It's called Bauli mutt, also Nanak Chora. It is there still in Puri. So, and then because of Guru Nanak ji's devotion to Lord Jagannath, Maharaja Ranjit Singh presented the Kohinoor to Lord Jagannath in his will. But that is somehow now in the Tower of London, adorning the crown of Mukutta of the Queen of. Understand that the Supreme Lord is one, and according to our scriptures, the Supreme Lord has manifested in this Chaturda Daru Vigraha forms as Lord Jagannatha. In the scriptures actually, the word Jagannatha is mentioned less as reference to the Lord. The word Purushottama is mentioned more in Skanda Purana, in Brahma Purana and others. So Purushottama of course means only the Supreme Lord. It cannot mean anything else. Purushottama, Paramatma. All the days of Lord Brahma, through all the nights of Lord Brahma. So in the day of Brahma there are so many manvantars. In each manvantar there are so many Chaturyugas, 71 Chaturyugas in each manvantar, and in each yuga the avatars manifest. But from whom? From the Supreme Lord. So the real identity of Lord Jagannath is that of the Supreme Lord. Okay, I think we should finish that. Thank you for your time and your patience. Hari Om, Hari Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukha bhag bhavet. Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityur ma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you very much.